Good evening, TheoTRADE. This is Corey Rosenblum, and you're watching the Theo, not the video, for an earnings-packed, not only day, but week. It's the 24th of October. It's Tuesday night, and let's get started with two different outcomes. In Google went down, Microsoft went up, Snapchat volatile, and there's other stocks that had about 5 to 6% movement in today's session. So without further ado, let's start there. We just saw, after the close, some earnings take place in Microsoft. Let's start with it. It actually reported just a little bit before Google took the sell side pathway. Its expected move. Now, in tonight's session, we're going to be focusing on the expected move. So Microsoft is about the $15 expected move, 63% implied volatility. That'll take your close, put that up $15, but also down $15. Where's the bid? $15. That's how expected moves work. So you have a butterfly to the upside, you've got your profit at the moment. That is the expected move, roughly 15 up, but to be fair, 15 down. Take everything else off the chart. Just looking at our expected move. So Microsoft shares, if they hold overnight into Wednesday's session, we'll be trading upwards at 345, putting those shares right here at a new swing high, which continues the uptrend in Microsoft. Let's do another. Google just had its earnings, and its expected move was about $7.60. $38 plus or minus about $7 to $8, $7.50, almost $8. Takes us a little bit under, that's about $131 per share to the downside. Where is Google going to open up if this sustains? Down to this about $130 per share, putting it to a little swing low. So Google had a downside reaction. Snapchat, if you are interested, just had its earnings with a volatile up, volatile down, unchanged. Implied volatility 250%, $1.77. Just that was a fun one. You probably don't have positions in Snapchat. I certainly don't. But Google and Microsoft and other stocks, perhaps. But before or after, before we talk about those, let's get a look at what other stocks had earnings before the market opened Tuesday. Just to review, GE set the tone with a big swing to the upside. That's a 6% gain in today's session, continuing its uptrend. General Motors down 2%. That's a stock making a new 52-week low. At the end of the session, we'll talk about some other stocks making 52-week lows. 32 of them did that. And we see that General Motors is on that list of stocks making new 52-week lows. And up here there it is, right there. We'll come back to that later. Coca-Cola, 3% gain. Dow Chemical, 2% gain. Triple M had a bounce off of its 52-week low, and that had a 5% gain. Danaher, that's a 52-week low, down 4% almost in today's session. Verizon is seeing a 9% gain. NextEra Energy, weak stock, getting a bounce in today's session. Raytheon, defense contractor, weak stock until the conflict in the Middle East is taking off. And that stock, like it, love it, or hate it, is getting a 10%, 7% gain after its earnings were announced. And that'll take us back into Microsoft, also Texas Instruments. While we're here, Texas Instruments, it has or had about a $6.66 thereabout, almost $6.60-$6.70 thereabout expected move. Where does that take us? Right there, which is exactly $6.50 to the downside, pushing it to a new 52-week low. We have to extend that chart. That's right there, 139 or 140 for Texas Instruments. But in tomorrow's session, pre-market, before the market opens, you may have positions on. If not, then these are only three stocks. Boeing will have earnings before the market opens. General Dynamic, Thermo Fisher Scientific, but it's going to be down too. Today we're talking about Microsoft and Google and others, not to belittle the other stocks. There's plenty of stocks making big moves pre and post market. But in tomorrow's session, the headlines will focus on Meta. Meta is up at those 52-week highs and qualifies as one of the strong stocks, getting stronger. Now, its share price is off a little bit, perhaps in sympathy with other artificial intelligence company. They have Bard And then Facebook, or Meta, has Llama, their artificial language or large language models. Google's actually pushing lows. Facebook is in sympathy with it, at least at the moment. We'll also have IBM, another technology name, will report after the close tomorrow. But then, after all of these earnings, just for the sake of a 10-minute video, Amazon, Intel, and then at the end of the week, Friday, we'll have consumer sentiment, and we'll have some oil or energy stocks, ExxonMobil and Chevron. So where does that leave us as traders? Volatile. What can we describe today's intraday trading session as? Volatile. But if you do follow intraday expected moves, that was about the 42.80 for the upper bound of the expected move. That was the top of the market before it reversed and came all the way back, gaining about 0.7%. The Nasdaq similarly, and that you can see how the after effects after the market of the earnings sent the Nasdaq shares up and then all the way back down. There is the first thing, the optimism, the Microsoft. Within a few moments, Google, the pessimism, the bearism. And that sent the market right back to where it was. Big stocks, big market of tech names, and they split. Again, Microsoft up, Google down. Tomorrow and onwards, we'll see additional earnings. But volatile is a good way to describe today's session, but your expected move was about that 14,867 was the peak of the day, and the intraday reversal all the way to the bottom, about 200 and so handles, but all the way right back. So we'll summarize the video in this week. Volatility, volatility, and more volatility. All it means is keep your trades safe, keep your risk guarded. Don't get too far ahead of your trades and don't predict. No one knows what's going to happen. Use your expected move pricing and use your probabilities. And of course, the risk that comes with spreads, puts, and calls as opposed to the non-stops or the volatility of futures products. Keep those tight, keep those on the intraday basis. Otherwise, there's lots of plays to be had on the bigger picture. Speaking of the bigger picture, just a quick look. You can scan for these on your own to have additional game plans or opportunities. But the biggest stocks in today's market that pushed on to new 52-week lows, I'll sort them by market cap. That includes Bank of America. There's TMO. Going to report earnings tomorrow. Pfizer off to another 52-week low as that downtrend continues and the weak stock getting weaker continues. But also Danaher, Texas Instruments, again, one with earnings coming up, or earnings play. That was one down at new lows. Morgan Stanley, Financial, Citigroup, and some of the others. We won't list them all, but you can see that those 34 stocks in the S&P 500 are making 52-week lows. Let's group them as I did in my afternoon session by sector. Are there any insights? Yes, healthcare and financials permeate or are making the biggest moves as a sector. Also real estate, that makes sense because higher interest rates are going to put a crimp or put some bearish or some pressure on real estate companies, but also financial companies to an extent. And healthcare might be a little surprising, but nonetheless, those stocks, not just Pfizer, it's easy to pick on Pfizer as a weak stock getting weaker and a downtrend stock and a new stock making lows, as we would Moderna for some other reasons. But it's not just those. If it were just those two stocks, that would be an anomaly, but it's not. We're seeing weakness continue in the healthcare sector. So stocks like Illumina, which is ILMN, has persistently made those lows, and also in my afternoon session, it may not seem like it's that big of a downtrend, but if you pull this back to the weekly perspective, Illumina shares were actually at about $5.50 per share in early 2021. And that means this downtrend has been very persistent, very resilient, and very pernicious to the downside, never quite getting a reversal. And that fits that category of weak stock downtrending, continuing to weaken and push new lows. Illumina and other companies like that. So just in that list of healthcare stocks, Danaher, Allegiant, we see Bio-Techne, which is a nice symbol, tech, Waters, and Charles River Laboratories, Bio-Rad Laboratories, and others in the group. But not to be outdone as we come to the conclusion of tonight's just brief video with so much to update. Other financial companies that are making new lows include Bank of America, Citigroup, and others that Morgan Stanley certainly, Travelers, and some that you may not have heard of in the market. But a quick look at those shows that we're seeing additional weakness and additional lows come off in Bank of America, Citigroup, and the ones we'll look at, which would be Morgan Stanley. That's just a breakdown of a support level, and others. Always be careful and be safe this week, especially due to all the earnings and the split. Some will outperform. There will be positive surprises. Some will underperform. There will be negative surprises. Who wins this week? It's a toss-up, and right now, it's a tie. We'll see where Friday's close takes us. As always, be careful and safe. This is Corey Rosenblum with tonight's Theo video update for October 24th, 2023.